All right, so we are going to be going live here in a minute as soon as people have a chance to log in. Takes a second or two. All right, we got some people in there. So, hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Bob Cooney here. You already know that is my expectation. And I'm going to give everybody a second here to log in just to make sure that you got a chance, because I've gotten comments from people that it takes a minute to get into the platform. And so yeah, welcome to what I think is episode 24 of the weekly deep dive, which I'm a bit amazed by. And this week, a really interesting kind of last minute guest too, because I had a little bit of a hole in the schedule. I was a little slow booking up the summer, at least summer in the Northern Hemisphere. It's winter down here in Australia. And Andrey had just launched their new product, and I've been watching it for a couple of years, and I'm like, hey dude, this is really interesting. Can you jam into a deep dive? And he's like, yeah. So Andrey, welcome. Really pleased to have you here.
Okay, so hi Bob, and first of all, thank you for your invitation to join this series. So, and I'm Andrey from AntiLatency, and as Bob mentioned, we just launched our tracking system. So it's positional tracking system for VR, and especially for location-based entertainment VR. And I joined Bob to make a conversation tonight. So I'm in Moscow now, and actually it's already 10 p.m. So as I said, good evening. So it's very active for us.
It's really interesting. You know, VR is such a close community and a global community, and there's so much going on in Russia that it fascinates me. And I was interviewing Dima from Neurogaming a few weeks ago, and just asking him why he thought there was so much happening in the VR space in Russia. What's your take on that? Why is there so much innovation coming out of your country?
So actually, I think that here in Russia, we like innovative solutions, and if we will take a look at the different VR locations that we have here in Russia. So almost every location has its own technology. It's not all about that there is a one stuff that is installed on every location, but it was launched like a technology company that created its own VR system. And they opened location-based entertainment location, but based on this technology.
Yeah, it's interesting. So everybody builds their own stuff and opens it rather than buying somebody else's stuff and opening it. And like, so, you know, look, I've worked with a bunch of Russian companies now, and I find them fascinating, and I love working with the people. Like, there's a real directness and spunk and kind of, you know, a little bit of a fuck you attitude, right? In that, and how much of that plays into people just, you know, is there collaboration inside of Russia? Are companies collaborating, or does it like feel super competitive?
So actually, so we collaborate inside Russia. Of course, if you have one city and you have several locations inside one city, you will compete. But if we're discussing the position of these companies on a worldwide arena, so they are all collaborate. And if you come to any VR event in USA, in Europe, you will meet a lot of companies from Russia, and we meet a lot of our companies that we collaborate here in Russia.
Yeah, interesting. So the other thing I want to ask you about, so I saw you guys for the first time at the now defunct VRLA conference. I think it was 2 years ago. And I think I saw you the first time 3 years ago. And you had a booth there, and it was really early. And last year, or 2 years ago, you had 2 summers ago, I think, or you had a fairly big setup, and you were doing live demos of a free roam VR system, and but still single player. And I was really dubious about, it's easy to do a single player free roam demo, like anybody can do that. And so I was, I saw the possibility of what you were doing, and we're going to talk about the solution here in a minute. But like it's totally possibly disruptive. And what brought you to the idea of creating, like, there's so many tracking systems in the market, right? I mean, there's more than I could even mention in an hour-long show. What made you want to design a new tracking system? Like, what was your thinking behind the starting of the company and launching into a whole new tracking system?
Yeah, so actually we're working with tracking systems for more than 7 years. So we have a company of engineers who have very deep knowledge in computer vision and in tracking algorithms. So we have developed our first tracking system in 2011, 2012, and it was outside-in tracking system with 4 cameras and with the markers on the 3D glasses that we tracked. So it was a company called Nettle, and its product is a Nettle box. It's a holographic screen with 4 cameras in the corners, and user in 3D glasses walk around the table and saw the hologram from any angle, from any viewpoint. Yeah. So we started our current company, AntiLatency, in 2016, and we used all our competences that we had. And we made the new technology completely different. So it was, initially we had outside-in tracking system, but we made it inside out. So it's only the team and only the competences the same, but the tracking system is quite different. And we used our inside-out approach when we designed a very, very small tracking module that you can put on any object you need to track, and just have very simple markers in the environment. And so it's not just an idea to make the new tracking system, but it was the very, very strong solution that we made based on our experience.
But yeah, so it was basically a natural evolution that work you were already doing, and a market emerged, and you decided to pivot into that market, I guess. So let's. You sent me a video. I'm going to play a video for people who aren't familiar with the product, just so you can get an idea of what it is we're talking about, and then I want to talk a little bit about. Joe's asking about business models, because I want to get into the business model, because you guys are, potentially going to start a bit of an arms race. So let's get into the video.
Okay, great.
We desired to make VR more awesome, so we have developed a superior tracking system. Meet the ALT, Anti-Latency Tracker. It's a tiny optical inertial tracking module with onboard image processing. We've achieved outstanding image stability, combining custom-designed lenses and a metallic housing. Sensor fusion approach helps us to update position twice every millisecond and achieve 2 milliseconds hardware latency. Each device passes hourly calibration on the CNC platform. ALT is an IMU-based tracker. We use optics for an initial guess and real-time IMU correction. Such an approach provides a high resistance to occlusion. Every tracker gets its position relative to an infrared layout. Thanks to the active markers, the tracking system works stably under different lighting conditions, from completely dark to sunlit rooms. The tracking area is very easy to scale for custom shapes and sizes. It's installed like a simple puzzle. Our system is multi-user by its nature. Each ALT tracks its position independently, so you can use hundreds of them in one room. Install your own tracking zone in no more than 30 minutes and never think about support and calibration. Occlusion resistance helps in scenarios when you're surrounded by moving people. You can enlarge the tracking area with low-cost markers, so this approach is very cost-effective. High speed and high accuracy combined with a large area provides freedom and allows you to move fast and even run in VR. There is an infinite number of use cases for a general-purpose tracking solution. Instead of making a form factor suitable to everything, we designed a modular device. The sockets provide connectivity and adapt the device for specific applications. You can track your head, hands, objects, and even your whole body thanks to the HMD socket, tag, and bracer. The sockets can be combined into a radio network using a high-speed radio connection with a response time 7 times faster than Bluetooth. Developers have access to our SDK with plugins for Unity, Unreal, and a native C++ API. Windows, Android, and even Linux platforms like Raspberry Pi are supported. We believe your imagination is unlimited, and the range of applications for fast and accurate positioning systems is much wider than VR, and it's difficult for a single company to cover all possible cases. So we made the design of the sockets open for developers. The open design allows embedding positional tracking in smart industry applications, in professional sport analytics, and even to track autonomous vehicles, robots, and drones. Available now on AntiLatency.com.
Look, I just want to get into the details of the technology, but not the tech itself, like the application of the technology, right? So you basically you lay out a floor, and the floor has infrared emitters, and they're emitting based on the placement of the emitters. They create a pattern. Is that right?
Yeah. So actually, all the markers, all the emitters are the same. So there is no uniqueness in one single emitter. But when you put them on a floor, so they create a unique layout. So with the unique combinations of such emitters.
Yeah.
And the optical part of our tracking system orientate itself relative to such layout.
Yeah. And so for those of you that aren't seeing this, what it is if you think about the new, the Windows mixed reality system, where you've seen the videos where people are taping out patterns on the floor and the wall, what anti-latency has done is just turned that into an infrared pattern so you can't see it, and embedded those emitters in a foam floor that you'd buy at a local home supply to pad the kids' playroom, like in the basement. And so so it's totally modular and expandable. And then so how much of the real-time tracking is IMU, which is inertial measurement unit, or versus infrared? Like, is it like, because you said you're using the infrared for initial calibration. Is there a balance there that you could talk about?
So actually, so we can even say that our tracking is more inertial than optical. I mean that in real time, so we can achieve this very high speed of the IMU and we calibrate these IMU models in real time using optical data.
Now, one of the things I've experienced with a lot of IMU-based trackers is the initial calibration is really time-consuming and inconsistent, and oftentimes in purely IMU-based systems, and there's a couple of them out there that I've done, you have to recalibrate 2 or 3 times before it works right. Once you calibrate it, it seems to be okay. What's the initial calibration like for one player, and then if you have 10 players going in, like how does it happen?
So actually, there is no such calibration process. So that means that first of all, so you need to understand where you are located. I mean, using optical data, you can get your absolute position very accurate and very precisely. After that, so you can build the trajectory of your movement using IMU data. So all this changes in your position. And but if we will use only initial data, you know that you will get a
lot of drift.
Drift and mistakes that will increase during time. But we get the absolute position based on optical data many times per second, and that means that there is no such mistake based on IMU drift data.
Yeah. Okay. So oops, sorry, got all excited. So you guys are basically now you're not creating your own turnkey solution, right? You're, making optical analysis. They sell optical tracking systems to companies that want to build solutions in VR, mocap, or whatever. So you guys are kind of like them, right? You're enabling companies to build turnkey solutions or whatever, but we'll keep in the location-based VR market for this discussion because that's where the audience is. So somebody who wants to build a free roam track, a game or product would come to you, license or buy the technology, create that whole system, and then they would sell it based on your technology, but you're not creating turnkey solutions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And you described this model very good. So we do not sell turnkey solutions for the end customers. So we're a hardware vendor, and we provide all the companies who's going to create location-based entertainment, VR center, or who's building VR training or any VR solution. So they need tracking system because it's a basic technology for VR. And so we provide for them our solution to use in the applications.
Yeah. So I want to flip through. I want to flip through some of the slides that you sent just to kind of talk about the different components, because there's a bunch of components to this. So this shows the infrared emitter that sits in the floor, and I saw when you were laying down in the video when you were laying down the foam pads, there's like this tape underneath it. I assume, is that just to supply power, or is there data also coming through that?
No, data just for power to get power through the emitters.
Okay, cool. And so I remember you telling me the cost of the flooring system when we talked a year or so ago in LA, and I was just like, I had to ask somebody 3 times to make sure I was getting the price right, because it was so ridiculously inexpensive. And so you've got I think most people in VR think of 100 square meters and 200 square meters, or 1,000 square feet, 2,000 square feet is the general size of tracking systems. So what's it cost, to lay out the floor? We'll get to the other components in a minute, and we'll build up what the stack looks like. But what's it cost for a developer to buy the flooring system from you for, let's say, 100 square meters?
So actually, we have a very simple and very transparent pricing model. For example, for the tracking area, so this price is $25 per square meter.
So 25. So that would be so $25 per square meter for 100 square meters. You're talking about $2,500.
Yeah.
Does that include? And that includes the foam. It's the flooring material itself.
Yeah. So it includes everything you need for the tracking area. So I mean, it's foam floor, it's markers, it's all the strips that you saw on the video. That so for powering the emitters. So this is so this price includes everything I mentioned.
And how many emitters do you put? Pete's asking how many sensors or emitters in the floor in 100 square meters or per square meter?
Actually, it's roughly it's something like 1 emitter per square meter. So okay. Something like that.
So it's 100 square meters, you'd have about 100 transmitters. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because it of course it depends. For example, if you have many obstacles on the tracking area, like walls, and so you can. So in these situations, you may need more emitters. But if it's just a warehouse, so with the big area, and we put our markers, so on average it's something like that, like 1 emitter.
And so when you I'm really curious, because there's nothing like this on the market. And so when you ship this, good question, Rick. Let's get to that. When you ship this to a developer, do they decide where to place the markers, or does it come already embedded in the floor?
No, so they are not embedded. So the developers will assemble this floor like a puzzle. But we provide the software, so where you can calculate and create a layout for your area. So you just put the dimensions of your area, like so the length and the height of your area, and so the layout will be generated automatically by our software, and so our algorithms will put the markers in on the place where it creates a better layout.
So you give them a tool to figure out where the best place to market is. Awesome.
Yeah. So we provide it. So with ours.
And so a couple of questions already coming in. So life expectancy, is there a useful life? I would imagine the thousands of people running through it. You might have to replace some foam panels, but those are easily purchasable anywhere. The technology itself, have you tested this for longevity with people running on it and stomping on it?
Yeah, sure. So we had already some locations that operate their VR parks based on our technology, and they have many people who come every day, and so actually it's okay. So regarding this how durable it is.
Yeah. Cool.
And, yes, sometimes you may need to change the floor mats, but so the price is not high here. So as you also mentioned, so it's like a foam floor that you can buy in any place.
Yeah. And for $2,500 for 100 square meters, if you have to replace it every year, like who gives a fuck? Is there? And then somebody's asked, Anthony Schaefer's asking about putting markers on the wall or the ceiling. And I'm curious what you're thinking, Anthony, as far as use case. But is there a use case for putting these on walls and ceilings? And if so, is there any limitation to that?
So actually, it's now it's one of the most popular questions that you that we get now. And we have a good answer here that we do not have any technology limitations to put the markers on the ceiling, on the walls, so the main question is more engineering questions. For example, for the floor setup, we provide everything out of the box. I mean, so we designed so the emitters to embed it into the floor mats. We designed this strips for the power, and now so our customers just assemble and install it very, very quickly, like a simple puzzle. So and if you want to put it in the ceiling, so with our technology you can do it, but we do not provide such a simple constructor yet.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. You spend years designing something for a certain use case, and the first thing people want to use is, can they use it for something else? I love that. That's where innovation comes from, though.
Yeah, but actually, so we can ship so this individual markers, and if they want to mount it, so
yeah,
no limitation here.
Cool. And so Rick's asking about, and this is a really good question. This is coming from a guy who's actually operated location-based VR, so he understands it. Is there any kind of, because I know you're doing power and not data from the infrared relays, is there any diagnostic system that lets you know if they're working, and if something fails, that you can proactively fix it or replace it versus just, potentially having the tracking go a little out? I guess it's IMU based, so like the infrared is almost like secondary to the tracking, really, isn't it?
It's a good question. I mean, maybe it's secondary in real time, so regarding the getting the most actual data, but without good optical part, you can lose your tracking, and that is not good for experience. So I mean, for the good experience, you need both parts, optical and IMU.
What I would do in that case, I would just get an infrared viewer. You can get like an infrared heads-up display. There are devices that you can view infrared with. Cameras, like low light cameras and stuff, and you could literally just walk through the floor on a daily basis and just see the emitters emitting. I would imagine that's the simplest way to do it.
But actually, so now every marker, every emitter has not only the array of infrared LEDs, but also one green LED for indication purposes. So you do not need to have any special goggles, so you just can see with your eyes that, for example, this marker is not green. So that means that.
So there's a green LED on each marker that tells you.
Yeah. It's not for the tracking purposes. It's just for
visibility.
Yeah.
Awesome. So and so one of the questions just came in is around, is there a reason to convert an existing VR system that somebody might own over to this? And I think my question to that would be, my answer to that would be, it depends on what system you're using and why you'd want to change it out. What are the key advantages of this besides cost? Because we're going to get further into the cost of all the different gadgets that you sell. Besides cost, what are the other main advantages of this versus Windows mixed reality inside out, and let's say Lighthouse 2.0 can do for 1,100 square meters pretty easily? Like, what do you see the key advantages against those two?
So if we're talking about SLAM systems, so the main advantages here, so it's stability and accuracy, and especially for multi-user. So because with our tracking system, we can achieve the accuracy like 2 millimeters on the hundreds of square meters. And so, for example, for the SLAM system, so it's tracking stability, tracking accuracy, and also the possibility to track any custom objects. So you can put our marker on a gun. So on any object like a cup, if you need to track it, then you can track your legs and create full body tracking, so that it's not possible for such systems. And we have many requests from our customers when they need to track any special object. So maybe it's not for the location-based entertainment, but for the trainings. But if you need to put a very small object and you need to check it precisely, so you need our tracker. You need our tracker on such objects.
Yeah, cool.
So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this slide, so it's not very. It's something happens with the background of the slide, but so this slide's about that we can implement any tracking scenario. So we can track just head or track with the hand controllers. So we can
I
also
want to get into the different. I want to get into the different modules because you know, there's some questions around like, are they wireless? So let's get into because you've created, like when I saw you guys, you had one module, and now you've, you know, and it was obviously a prototype, and now all of a sudden you've created, you know, 3 different or more different modules with very specific use cases. And yeah, sorry if the slides are sometimes in the conversion to PDF and putting them in the platform, they get a little wonky, but I think you've got actual images. Like, so here's the tag, right? And so talk about this module, and it is wireless, Anthony. I know that was one of your questions, but how do you get power to this thing? How long is it? And what's the specific use case for this? Okay,
so we created first of all we created a modular device. So the core module, so the tracker is the same for all the applications and for all use cases. But to adopt our tracker for specific use case, we also designed different accessories and wireless accessories. For example, check. So it's a small device that you put on object you need to track, and you can see the green part of the check. So it's it's antenna, so it can transfer data using our proprietary radio protocol. And so this device also has the battery inside, and you can use it before recharging, something like 2 hours, and then you can recharge it with the batteries. So just to demonstrate for you, so this is a check.
Here, let me hold on. I want to turn off the video so people can see that better. There we go.
Yeah. So so this is our main module. So this is our tracker.
And that has IMU and infrared built in, right? And radio communication. No, the radio communications in the housing.
Yeah. So radio communication in this part. And here we also have an FPGA and MCU for image processing. So we process image from the optical sensor in real time, and we do it here in this small device. So we, when we connect it to something like mobile or standalone headsets, we do not use the CPU and the battery of these devices, because we do everything here in our own devices.
Yeah.
And if you need to transfer data, so from them you need our specially designed sockets. For example, each tracker comes with this socket. It's just wired socket, so there is no radio communication device inside, so you can connect it with the micro USB cable and connect it to your host and get the tracking data.
That's what so that's when you would put on a headset, and then would you wire that to the headset for power? Is that like so into the USB-C connection on an Oculus Go or something? Use that,
yeah, something like that. So, for example, you can put it on your headset. For example, if you use tethered headsets, you can also connect it to the backpack to get the power and to transfer tracking data. If you use standalone headsets, you can also connect it directly to the port of your headset for the data transfer and for power.
Okay, got it. And then what's the on the other one, on the tag, like what's the battery? Everybody's asking about charge cycles and battery life. What's the, how long does it take to charge it and how long will that run?
It had a battery that runs for 2 hours. So without the recharge, and that you need to recharge it. And in this case, for example, if you need to change the tag, so you can just take the headset, to take the tracker and to put it in another tag.
So if those tags are mounted on, say, guns, are they easily swappable off the gun, or are they adhered with some sort of like tape or something that, because obviously 2 hours doesn't work in a retail environment, right? And I know you've solved that somehow. So what's the solution to the 2 hour charge time in a 14-hour Saturday?
So so you on your gun, so you have a clippable part. Then you can put the tag and then take it and put another tag and use it for the next session.
Okay, gotcha. So you can, and how long does it take? So if it runs for 2 hours, how long does it take to charge?
So it's less than to recharge. Recharge it, but something like an hour.
So you'd need two. So you'd need 2 for each. Like if you had 10 guns, you'd want 20 of those tags plus spares. And my guess is every hour you're swapping them out just to be safe. And so what are the sensors cost and what are the tags cost? Like just to give, so we can start building the price stack of the whole solution.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, all our prices are open to our website and the prices section, so you can also visit it and to see it. And the price for the tracker, it's 100 US dollars, and the price for the accessory like tag, so it's just 35. And
you know that there's a lot of people going to be watching this video freaking out, right? Because of these are just so all right. So let's just total up. You got $2,500 for the floor. You've got, how much were the individual trackers? $100. So you'll need, let's say you want to do full body tracking, right? So you got hands, you got feet, you got a head, you got a weapon. So let's say you put 7 on each body. Is that a reasonable number? So you're talking about, $700 in trackers. Let's say there's another few $100s in tag things and wireless things. So, maybe you've got $15,000 worth of hardware there. So, you're talking about a full body tracking system for, maybe 20 grand. Is that for 100 square meters? Is that ballpark about what you're about, right?
So if we're talking regarding hardware, so you're right.
Yeah.
And you can also use kind of calculator at our website, so to type in and so the general
And I just want to clear, Rick, that's not 20 grand per player. Like that's, that would be because each piece is $100. You're talking about times 10 players would be, let's say if you wanted, you're talking about $1,000 to put 10 on a player. And so 10 players would be 10 grand. Like it stacks up really, really inexpensively. And so, where people are putting lighthouse tracking, this is, and then you have occlusion issues, right? So this is the difference, is that, because of the IMU base with the infrared tracking, you can do real player density. And I've been a big fan of Holodeck. I've been working with those guys for a long time, and that's their thing, is like they're doing this hybrid tracking to allow real high player density. And so far they've been working with optical tracking and RF, and optical tracking is expensive. And what they do is they limit the number of cameras you need to try to keep the cost down. But this is another order of magnitude of price decrease potentially. And so it's really interesting. I'm fascinated to see where this wears up. So Gail Berkey, who's up in the great last frontier of Alaska, is asking about, are there any solutions available for this yet? Who are you talking to? Like how going to be this other than building their own solutions? Is there anything you can talk about yet?
Sorry, your connection was not so good.
Yeah,
so,
sorry.
Maybe just
try that again.
Question, so you can.
So, are there any companies that are offering product yet built on your tracking system? And if not, is there anything coming that people should look forward to? Is there anything you can talk about regarding actual end user solutions that operators might be able to, look at and evaluate?
Yeah, got it. So actually, we just released our product, and 2 weeks ago, and we have some locations location in Russia, in Moscow, that use our tracking solution. So one of them is District 0, and another one, and now we have many active projects around the world. So in Europe, in China, and in Canada. So the companies who are creating solution based on our tracking systems, and I believe that in the near future, so we can share such information with you and your followers.
Cool. So when do you expect this? When do you expect solutions based on this technology to start hit the market? Is it going to be in the next few months, the next few quarters? Is it going to take a year? What do you think it's going to? When do you think you'll start seeing stuff out there?
Well, so just a few months. So I think it's starting from July.
Yeah.
Like so.
Cool. So I want to go back. I want to go back to the slides too, and flip through and get to the some of the other accessories, because and so this is the one that actually goes on the headset itself. If you need that's got the USB connector. So you showed us that one, and then you've got so this one specifically is for the Pico Goblin 2. Why did you create one specifically for the Goblin?
So actually, so we like this headset because it provides a good screen, and it's a standalone headset with the Snapdragon 835. So and it doesn't have its own 6DoF tracking solution, and when our customers ask us for the standalone solution, so we think that it's a good match here. And
so basically, you're taking a 3DoF headset and making it 6DoF in free roam with a $100 module.
Yeah, and we also have experiments now to make not just 6DOF headset, but the headset with the 6DOF tracking and full body. So I mean to connect also the trackers from the legs and from the heads to the head module, and to process everything on such standalone headset.
Yeah, interesting. And so talking about full body, so you've got, this looks like something that goes on a hand for hand controls. And so what does this cost? And is that, and from a hygiene standpoint, what materials are you using here? It looks like it's polished aluminum, but
yeah. So actually, we love aluminum housing. So it's so we use it in our core device, and also with the for different modules. And here, so you can see bracer. So it's lightweight 6DOF hand-based controller. So you can see the socket where you can put in our tracker.
Yep.
And on the inner part of the hand, there is also a part with the touch on the bracer. So that means that this controller can recognize the grab gestures. So when you
is it capacitive, or is it just sense movement? What is it?
So there is touch here on this part. So when you touch this part with your fingers, so it recognizable.
So it'll only recognize a full close of the hand. It won't replace leap motion if you're trying to do fine motor control, but it'll. Can you?
It's just to take something and to release it. I mean, so for the main scenarios, especially for LB, it's enough. So you have a physical object, so you need to take it. And then you need to put it off. For example, you can grab something. You can grab something in VR, then throw it away. So all these gestures and all these scenarios, so you can implement with such controller.
Got it. And so we'll get into the business model here in a second, but I want to a couple of questions. I know the video talked about latency, and Andrey might not have been there. What's the latency compared to OptiTrack, which I think is the gold standard right now for tracking accuracy and speed?
So actually, we have a very accurate and very quick, very fast tracking system. So it's like 2,000 measurements per second. That's our speed, and the physical latency of our device is just 2 milliseconds. As we have a very good trajectory based on inertial data, we can also extrapolate such trajectory to get the future position of a user. And so we can predict user position, and so compensate for the rendering latency and all these stages that is done in VR system.
Cool. And so let's talk about the platform a little bit, right? Because there's obviously, all the hardware is great, but you've already teased a little bit about like a development kit where people can lay out the floor and design the best layout for the infrared emitters. What's the rest of the platform look like? What else comes with it?
So actually, if we're talking about the components of the tracking systems, I think that we already discussed them. So you need the tracking area equipment. So it's eye area meters with foam floor mats, floor tiles, and you also need the main modules, those are trackers to put on the objects, and you need so these sockets so to put in the tracker and to transfer data from tracker. And you also need to install our software on the host, like on VR Backpack or on Android devices, on Android headsets, and you also need a license to use our software for the commercial applications. For example, if you open VR Park, you need to pay for the hardware and pay for the software license.
And so, the developer is obviously going to pay the software license, and then they're going to charge whatever they charge to the operator. Mm-hmm. But what's your for developers? What's the licensing cost? Is it a percentage of revenue? Is it a flat fee? Is it so much per month? How do you structure it?
So actually, we have the permanent lifetime licenses. So you need to pay just once, and then, so for example, if we are a developer who sells solutions to the customers, so they can use any licensing model they need. I mean, so if they want to use revenue sharing, so they can.
But as far as what you charge, if I want to build a solution based on this, I pay you a flat fee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So actually, we have so our licensing model is per host. So based, I mean, so that you need to pay for the license for one backpack.
Okay, so it's per player, and is that per player at a time? So if I build an 8-player system, there's 8 licenses that I have to acquire.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a one-time fee. And how much is it, like, for per player?
Mm-hmm. So so we have 2 types of licenses now. Some one license is up to 4 trackers per user. So for example, if you need just to implement head tracking and hand tracking and maybe a gun tracking, or like 4 trackers. So it's 1,500 USD.
Okay.
And we also have an extended license, so with no limitation on number of trackers per user. So this license is 2,500.
Okay, and that's a one-time license.
Yeah. So it's a lifetime, so one-time fee.
I'm just going to say this for the audience. What I love about that model is it's totally transparent, right? They're not making a lot of money on these little gadgets, right? They're expensive to manufacture. They've had to tool up. The engineering gone into it is ridiculous, right? And so my guess is that what they're doing is they're saying our licensing fee is kind of our gross margin. And this is how we're making money as a company. And all of this other shit we're going to put out there, and it's really inexpensive. And in order to support and grow, we need to make money, and that's our licensing fee. And I love the fact that you've decoupled those. I think it's really transparent, and it's really authentic, and it's really honest. And I think that one of the challenges that people look at some of these high-end solutions is, they look at the bill of materials and they wonder, how much am I really paying? How much profit is the company making? And frankly, it's none of your business how much profit a company makes, to be honest with you. If the product delivers a solution to your problem at a price point that's reasonable, it shouldn't matter. But people get spun up about that. And I love the fact that you're being transparent about it. So yeah, really well done. So as far as people are asking about support and frequencies, and I know you've been working on this for a long time and a lot of thought's gone into it. Are all the communications frequencies cleared in all the jurisdictions that people would care about? far as radio frequency?
They do not need to care about it. So everything is already done. So we already thought about it, and yeah.
So in the US, you would have FCC clearance and whatever you would need UL or whatever to bring the product to market.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And what about, and how are you going to market? Like, so are solution providers just reaching out to you and buying direct and then building, or do you have, and I guess they'll be responsible for support to the end user and you just support them. Are there any distribution strategies you guys have, or what's how are you getting this in the world?
So actually, so now, everyone can come to our website and to order the development kit. So to evaluate our technology and to integrate it in their applications, and then after that, so they are already go ahead to the commercial projects. And so right now, so we're also building our partner network. So and in China and in Europe. So for example, if you want to find an allocation with our tracking in your region, so in the near future, you can use our partner network to have such chance. And as we said, so we do not sell a turnkey solution to the end customers, but we hardware vendors. So for all this, we are developers, all these companies who develop and create great content for the and create great VR products for the market.
And so and how does it integrate? One of the questions that came in is, how does it integrate with Unity, and is it built on Steam, and like what's the development process look like for somebody to integrate your tracking system into their game or solution?
So we provide plugins for Unity and for Unreal. So it's so the major 3D engines. But we also provide C++ native API. So you can also use it in your own 3D engine and get the tracking data in different applications from our C++ API.
Awesome. And
so I think something like standard support for the 3D engine, so you can just use it out of the box.
And what about developer support? Like what kind of, so how much is the SDK? What do they get with the SDK? And how do you support the developers in bringing their solutions up to speed?
So the SDK is free and to our website, so you can just visit it and to download, to take a look at what is provided in our SDK. And for the support, so we're working hard to process all the feedback and all the questions that we get from the developers, to process them and to assist them in creating their own content.
Yeah, wow. So look, I'll editorialize for a second just to wrap up here, guys. This is so first of all, I'm just going to say I haven't done it, right? And you guys know I tend to be a bit of a skeptic, realist, somewhere on that end of the spectrum, because everybody loves their product. Everybody thinks their product's amazing. And oftentimes I get to do it and I'm like, meh, it's not amazing. Potentially this is the biggest game changer since inside out headsets. One of the questions is like, how does this, in the era of these inside out headsets coming out and all-in-one headsets, where does this play? And one of the natural limitations of inside out headsets is the ability to manage drift. I don't think Oculus has nailed it yet. Windows Mixed Reality has done it, but that's a backpack system, and they've built a whole platform behind it. You can't track behind your head. There's occlusion issues because the cameras are basically facing forward. And so if you want to do hand tracking, if you want to do full body tracking, it's going to be really hard to do it with just an inside out headset, at least for the time being. And so a really inexpensive way of taking the tracking fidelity up an order of magnitude for an inside-out headset or a mobile headset, to me, this makes Quest actually a viable free roam product, which it isn't yet, in my opinion. And so I would imagine you're getting a lot of questions from developers that are looking at using this with Quest. Are you going to do a specific module to clip onto Quest, or what are your thoughts? What are your plans there?
So actually, yes. So now we're also working on the support support for Oculus Quest. So like we already done for Oculus Go, and it's also one of the popular headsets among our customers, especially among the standalone headsets.
Okay.
And we're also expecting that with the Oculus Quest, we can provide for all those users so the option for full body tracking, and let's say so you can use VR chat application with the Oculus Quest and the full body avatar. And so now it's kind of era of inside out headsets on a SLAM, but the main idea here that if you want to create a stable tracking for pure inside-out headset, you need to add markers in the environment. Like and this famous demo of Oculus Facebook conference. So I think that everyone saw that, and you will recognize all the kind of QR codes and all these markers in the environment.
Yep.
And that means that if you can want to achieve so the good tracking quality, you need to add markers. And that's what we already done with our tracking technology. So we have created a very stable tracking. So with the very good recognizable IR emitters that you can put on your environment using our software, and so you will get the outstanding tracking quality.
Yeah, amazing. So look, I'm going to do my best to, get to Russia, I guess, this summer before it gets cold again, and try out some of the amazing technology that's coming out of that country. And definitely you're at the top of the list. I think this is potentially a game changer, enabling really cost-effective mobile-based free roam. And this is the thing that, I started in the laser tag business 30 years ago. And a lot of people ask me, like, how is VR going to affect laser tag? And the costs have been so high that it's been somewhat prohibitive. And now all of a sudden you're talking about, can you really run in it? There's so many questions I have in the execution of the solution. And keep in mind, this is just a tracking platform and an SDK. And ultimately, it's going to be how the developers use this and how well they integrate it into their solutions. They're going to determine the quality of the experience. But it feels like this is a really solid and ridiculously inexpensive building block that's probably going to set off an arms race of indie developers going to be able to develop free roam systems. And so I'm really fascinated to watch and see how this develops. Congratulations on the launch and getting this thing to market. It's a potential game changer.
Okay, thank you very much. And it was really a pleasure for me to speak with you today. And so we invite you to visit Russia, but we also believe that our systems will get you early. So before you visit our R&D center, so you already will use our tracking system somewhere in LA, so on in other parts of the world.
Keep me posted, and I'll keep the audience posted. A couple of housekeeping things. By the way, I've started a weekly blog called Dropping In, Radical Insights in Virtual Reality. If you're not getting it, which you probably are, go ahead, and there's a link there to go ahead and sign up. Right now, educate them how to evaluate VR solutions so they know what to buy. because ultimately, you know, we can build all the greatest solutions in the world, but if operators are really confused about what to buy, they're paralyzed on the sidelines a little bit. And so hopefully I can help give some insight and a framework for operators to evaluate. And if you're a solution provider, you should be reading that and thinking about, okay, how are operators going to evaluate my solution, and how do I want to potentially position it? I've also just started a boot camp for VR solution providers that are looking to increase sales, increase leads, and find a distributor. I want to announce Minority Media. One of my clients just landed a deal with Betson. It took them a year in the making. It was a lot of work, and they put a lot of preparation into it. So if you're still looking for distribution, hit me up, vrbob@bobcooney.com. I've got a really affordable online program for you that gives also one-on-one coaching integrated in with the online. And then next week, Fallen Planet Studios, one of the first studios to do location-based VR, and they're in every platform, and they're killing it. And we're going to talk with Alex about what he sees as the future as a content developer for location-based VR and maybe even the consumer VR market. So, Andrey, really appreciate you joining us. Great stuff. Congratulations again. And we will see you all next week, where I will be coming to you from Bowl Expo live in Las Vegas. And hopefully I'll have some news for you there too. So take care. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. Great. Bye.